Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Game Development Log video diary, and this week I'm going to be attempting to program water. So it's the start of the week and I've been putting off doing water for a long time now, but I am finally getting stuck into it this week, and today I made the very first steps towards getting water into the game. I programmed a water tile object, which is simply a quad like the one here, on which I will eventually render the water effect. And these water tiles can connect up and cover large areas of land to eventually look like rivers, oceans and lakes like the one here, which I'm going to be using for testing this week. Tuesday, and today I've been working on rendering two textures, and from this I've been able to set up some reflection and refraction textures for the water. So I now render the scene 3 times every frame. Firstly, I render the reflection view by moving the camera under the plane of the water and rendering everything above the water surface. Then I render the scene to another texture, this time with the camera in the normal position, but only rendering everything underneath the water. And finally, I render the whole scene, including the 2 textures, to the screen. And you can see the result here. At the moment I'm just rendering these textures to a GUI frame, but tomorrow I'll go about clipping them to the water's surface and blending them together. Today I've got the 2 textures that I showed you yesterday rendering nicely onto the water's surface. So you can see the trees reflected nicely here, and you can also see the ground under the water as well. And I've used the Fresnel effect to blend these 2 textures together, which means that when you look directly into the water it appears pretty transparent and there's very little reflection going on. But when you look across the water's surface at a low angle, the surface becomes very reflective. To be honest, at the moment it's pretty laggy because of course I'm rendering everything 3 times, but after a thorough optimization I reckon it will be fine. It is Thursday, and today I've been investigating the world of DUDV maps in order to get my water to move. So if you were wondering why I rendered everything under the water to a texture instead of just making the water transparent, then here's your answer. Because I have both the refraction and reflection rendered to textures, it makes it very easy for me to distort them like this. I'm using this thing here which is called a DUDV map to do the distorting. It's kind of like a normal map, except the red and the green value at each pixel represents the distortion of the water texture coordinates at a certain point. And I use 2 DUDV maps and I move them slowly over each other to create a moving, rippling water effect. And finally this week I've added specular highlights to the water to make the water look all shiny and sparkly, which is lovely. For this I just use 2 normal maps and I move them over each other like I did with the DUDV maps, except of course I use them to determine the normal at each point on the water's surface. And that is basically it for the water. I've got a huge amount of optimizing to do, which I will do over the weekend, and a couple of tiny bugs to iron out, but apart from that I am very happy indeed with the water. And that is it for this week. Next time I'm going to be adding support for sound and music into the game, and that devlog will probably be up in 2 weeks time because next Friday I'm going to be launching the tutorial series. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Have a brilliant week and I will see you all next time.